Thank you for joining me here today, and what a beautiful day it is. Now, Father Mike, you said in your clip that you had been given some really good advice on the path that you should take because you were struggling. You didn't exactly say exactly on what, but we get the gist. Like, you're going to go into the vocation of which you are called, or you're not going to. You're going to go another way. And then finally, this person, you said, offered wise advice on you only have to worry about one vocation at a time. But I don't fit into that, you see, because I am a woman called to consecrate the Eucharist within the Catholic Church, just like you were. And my choice, it appears, was done for me. But if any of us as Christians have learned anything, it is that what God puts in, no one can take out. I have already received the grace of being called by God to be a priest within the Catholic Church. I have received it. I have it within me. Just like the call you had within you. If anyone had dared say to you, you can't do that. If you had no choice and you felt the love of God, you felt that encompassing, incredible, surreal experience of intimacy that you experienced with God when you received it, would you have allowed anyone to take that from within you? Would have you challenged anyone who said, God wouldn't call you? You have to be a woman. Only women can become priests. But you can still worship. You can become a Eucharistic minister and you can read. You can be part of the parish council, but you cannot consecrate the Eucharist. What would you have said to them? I was called over 20 years ago. Is my faith strong? You bet. Am I doing this for me? No. Why would I stay on this journey so long? Because once you are called to do something, whatever it is, that is right and just and of God, then God is with you. You mightn't see God beside me. You mightn't see Mary behind me. You mightn't see Jesus with me, but they are here. I can feel them. For they are filling me with a grace, a purity, a sacredness that fills my cup with overflowing, that is not of this world. And so we cannot fully understand it always, but we trust, we have faith, we believe. I'd like to tell you a little story. I was a lay person when I was called, and I had to become a theologian to try and understand why it was that God was calling me to do one thing, and yet the church's teachings were prohibiting it. I have to admit it did flash through my mind. God, church's teachings. I weighed it up on the scales. Guess what? God won. Now, while I was completing my theology, there were seminarians in the class as well as lay people. Now, the lay people were there for many different reasons, but I was there because I was called to consecrate the Eucharist. And they had a pool there. So on the weekends, I was just down the road. I was permitted, because there were only like about 5 priests that were living in this great big huge college, and they'd got to know me pretty well because I was always in the library. And they said to me, look, you can use that pool on the weekend if you want. And so I did, because I love to swim, and it was very good for my mental health as well. So I was swimming up and down, up and down. And of course, the seminarians were lodging there. And one of them I recognised from my class. When I got out from the pool, he came up to me after I went out of the pool area. And he said to me, because he would have seen me in the classes, he said, oh, what are you doing here? And I said, well, I'm here because I'm being called by God to consecrate the Eucharist. And he said to me, oh, well, that's never going to happen. That's impossible. You know, it's true. And he said, that's tradition. I said to him, well, I'm glad that God made me a woman. I'm so glad, because I said, I get to show God how very strong my faith is. And then he started talking about his parish, how wonderful it was going to be, how he couldn't wait, for his studies to finish. I don't know where those words came from, but I thank God for them, because that's exactly what I'm doing. I am showing God just how very strong my faith is. You see, sometimes it's not always easy, but sometimes, you know, we can live quite easily within our faith, in our belief. But then when God taps us on the shoulder and says, hey, I want you to do this, and it's beyond those boundaries, and you didn't ask for it, but there it is. It's placed in you. What a grace that is. But it's been very difficult at times to try to live in 2 vocations. So Father Mike, this has not been easy for me, of the path I want to take, because I'm cut in 2. I have one path that God is calling me to do in the church, and the other one, well, very different, isn't it? If you could even imagine, any of you, what that might be like. So Mike, I would like you to think about what I said today. Think about what that might be for you, how hard that would have been for you. And please take a moment to think. Then, if you were prohibited, if they threatened you with excommunication so that you could never participate in the sacraments of the Catholic Church, and particularly in the one that you were called to do, or you would be excommunicated. I want to thank you for listening today. And Father Mike, please, I speak to you as a fellow Christian. In the early beginnings of the ancient church, in the very early beginnings of the Christian church, Eucharist was shared with people in house churches, a simple meal and wine to drink for the blood of Christ. Why then cannot women be ordained today? I want to thank you for listening, and I'm praying for all of you today. And Father Mike, you are a wonderful priest, but is it because you don't have to do anything beyond what the church's teachings say? Has not God called you to do so? in relation to women, women's roles, like priests in the Catholic Church. Thank you for listening to me today and have a wonderful day.